أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Welcome everybody with another lesson or in the introduction to Islamic fiqh, studying fiqh and Islamic jurisprudence. Today, inshallah, we are going through lesson number 3. We're still in the introduction section. And we inshallah will continue what we started last time, going through examples of the fabrication, falsification of the manuscripts. And unfortunately, all of that happened by, or all like the majority of that of what we're going to see would have happened by those attributed to Salafis movement, Wahhabis, and even their ancestors, as we will see. The group of like people or firqa that is called Hashwiyya, that's basically being attributable to that. Okay, so again, so it's just basically going through those examples. We started last time by going through one of the like modern books or like modern published books. Of course, this is al-Fiqh al-Akbar. Al-Fiqh al-Akbar means the Aqidah. So at that time, Imam Abi Hanifa, this book is by the Imam Abi Hanifa. And the Fiqh Akbar is basically Usul al-Din, Aqidah, and so on. Fiqh al-Azhar, Akbar means the major or the greater or the great fiqh, which is Usul al-Din, because these are issues of heaven or paradise against hellfire. It's things that you believe in correctly, you go to heaven, inshallah. May Allah make us all Ahlul Jannah. If you don't, if you're missing something, then you could be at risk. Or if you are missing most of them or critical ones of them, then basically you are or that person who's missing those major Islamic beliefs for sure will not be considered Muslim, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish him, and maybe he becomes of Ahl al-Nar. So that's why it's called Fiqh al-Akbar. Fiqh al-Asghar is basically what we call nowadays fiqh, the little fiqh or the major or the minor fiqh. So anyway, one of the 5 books written by Imam Abi Hanifa or dictated by Imam Abi Hanifa to his students is al-Fiqh al-Akbar. Those are 5 what we call rasail or books, small like booklets or small books that Imam Abu Hanifa taught to his students regarding al-Aqidah. And this is basically what became al-Aqidah al-Maturidiyya. Imam al-Maturidi, Abi Mansur al-Maturidi, came and had those rasail, those booklets or books with isnad to Imam Abi Hanifa, oral and written. And basically he compiled all that in his book about Tawheed, about Aqidah, and so on. So anyway, the Salafis movement, unfortunately, falsifying some of those books as we went through last time. So they will find that, for example, Imam Abu Hanifa saying, أن الله كلم موسى بكلامه الذي هو له صفة في الأزل وهو يتكلم بلا آلة ولا حرف. Basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he spoke to Moses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not talk with a tool or with a letter. And that's against the corporealist belief of Ibn Taymiyyah and of Salafis. And therefore, they took that out of the book. Of course, because this book is done in a way that like that person, he is a professor in a university. So he has to do that manipulation in a way that appears to be as if he is correcting it. But of course, he is not correcting. Of course, he's basically just falsifying and removing text. Also, for example, لفظنا بالقرآن مخلوق. Our excuse me, our uttering of Quran is created. So again, basically, those Hashwiyya, those people like the corporealist group at that time, at the time of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and so on, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, those who says or say لفظنا بالقرآن مخلوق مبتدعة, for example, or جهمية مبتدعة and so on. So what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal is saying is basically, he's not saying that لفظنا بالقرآن is not مخلوق, is not created. He's saying he doesn't want you to talk about that at all, because that was a key that at his time al-Mu'tazila and so on will start the argument leading to trying to convince people that al-Quran is makhluq, is created. And of course, everybody knows that Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal had a very strict madhab there, is don't talk about it. We don't care. It's not for us to know or say or not know. So he doesn't want to go into the fitna. And we talked about that. Imam al-Shafi'i, for example, in course al-Aqidah, we talked about that, how he basically answered that person who came to test him and so on. So that the point is, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal will say, don't go there, don't talk about that. This is fitna. Those people, those hashwaya, because their mindedness and so on, narrow-mindedness, they took it as do not, or basically that our uttering of reading or recitation of Quran is not makhluk, which is nonsense. It's basically as I am talking now, right? The voice, the vibration coming out of my voice is generated, is makhluk, is created for sure. It is not attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attribute would have like filled me and basically left him, and he is separated from Allah. All that is basically wrong set of beliefs, kufr. And then when those people started to have a loud voice, al-Bukhari, Imam al-Bukhari started to correct them, and basically he said, no, لفظنا بالقرآن مخلوق. You got it wrong, you misunderstood it. What did they do to Imam al-Bukhari? Basically they said he is mubtadi', he is blah blah blah, don't take hadith from him. And where he was basically kicked him out of the city. He went to other city. They wrote to a person there, don't take hadith from him, he is mubtadi'. And basically Imam al-Bukhari ended his last few years of his life confined, imprisoned in his house, not being useful to anybody, or not doing anything. So see how catastrophic those people are. Okay, so basically, again, this is something that is against the corporealist belief, al-Mujassima, and they basically, if it is an Abu Hanifa book, that's a problem for them, because Abu Hanifa is tabi'i. He met 6 of Sahaba. So if he said that, if basically that was passed on, then they're in trouble. So what they do, they just take it out. Again, وَلَا يَكُنْ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ خَلْقِهِ مَسَافَةٌ. There is no distance between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not residing in a place. Again, this is against their belief. As we talked in al-Aqidah, in their mind, there is the earth, and then on top of the earth, there is a throne, physical throne, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sitting on the throne. That's basically what they say. This is their Aqidah. Which means there is a distance between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his khalq, because he is in a physical place. Again, that's basically came from Jews and Judaism and basically Ahlul Kitab Aqidah, Israeliyat. And we talked about all that in detail, and we showed you example in Aqidah course. Those who didn't show it, watch it, they can find it in YouTube channel. Right, and so on. So basically, but the point here is, what do they do when they see those kind of sentences in the ulama book, the scholars' books, where it goes against what they say? They just take it out, say, no, that's incorrect. How it was incorrect? Why? How can you prove that the isnad is something in the isnad? Nothing whatsoever, just incorrect. I refuse it because it's against what Ibn Taymiyyah said, and therefore I'm good. Okay, so that's basically what they do. So basically, we talked about that, right? Now we'll take another example. There is a question here. So the utterance of words is created, but the message within with words are uncreated. Is that correct? We talked about that in detail in the Aqidah course. So I refer you to that. There is like a few lessons about it, and we went through it. صفة Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speech, al-kalam, صفة al-kalam. And we said that the lafz al-Quran or al-kalamullah or al-Quran, it means two different things. It means the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's like is attribute. It doesn't leave Allah. There is attributes. If an old attribute left or became like separated, that's two gods now. There's nothing like that. So as an attribute, it's attribute Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We talked about it, we defined it. But what we read is something that indicates the sifa, indicates the attribute. So they are two different things. The Quran as letters, as spoken, this is created because it's generated. It's nonsense. If you say what I'm talking now is uncreated, if I'm reading Quran, what comes out of my mouth is uncreated, that's basically nonsense, right? But what I'm reading is an indication of attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's exactly like, for example, was a big difference, but was as an example, if you have a photo of me and then basically you threw the photo away, did you throw me away? If you have the photo where you are, does that mean I am with you in that place? No. Okay. Anyway, so that's basically and again, for more detail about that, go to please the lesson on YouTube. This is a book called Kitab al-Sunnah. Okay, this book is attributable to the son of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Now, the son of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he wasn't at the same level of Imam Ahmad. Okay, one of the problems that happened also is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, his conditions for his hadith were even higher from al-Bukhari. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was a teacher of al-Bukhari. Bukhari was his student. And Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal conditions to accept hadith as sahih was much higher. And then he compiled like million hadith, but he only started to add in his musnad only those cream of the cream, right? Those the top, the only sahih hadith. After he died, his son started to introduce and add some of his other hadith into that book. So basically what we ended up with is like Kitab al-Sunnah, it has like over 40,000 hadith or something like that. So it's a very big hadith book, but it's basically been mixed good and bad. And also that's perhaps we can put aside, maybe when we talk about the hadith course, we can talk about that in more detail. But here, what the point is, Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, like basically, it is not necessarily whatever he says is not necessarily what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal is saying. Okay, that's something that you bear in mind. But nevertheless, that book that they publish, the Wahhabis and Salafis publishing publishers, it doesn't actually like in that isnad to the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Imam Abdullah and his son, there are two persons that are unknown, okay, which opens the door like widely for introduction of things that Abdullah, the son of Imam Ahmad, didn't say or didn't write. Okay, which is what exactly happened in this book. For example, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, known for his, and that came like mutawatir from him and different scholars, that he commend Imam Abu Hanifa, right? He commends him. But what we find in this book, third of this book, the third of it, is basically condemning, not commending, condemning Imam Abu Hanifa, abusing him, calling him kafir, jahmi, and so on and so forth, and attributing that to Imam Abdullah and attributing that to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, right? Which we know Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal never said any thing bad about Imam Abu Hanifa. It was the other way around, and that other way around, that like that good things that Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said about Imam Abu Hanifa, as I said, is mutawatir. All right. So when contradiction happen between something mutawatir and something that is unknown, and in here it's isnad there are two unknowns, it's basically we throw the other isnad away because it's basically must be incorrect. But nevertheless, these المحقق who the person who's doing the textual criticism of the manuscripts, he affirms that this book is thabit, is basically the book is for Imam Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Hanbal, it is as is, right? So he confirms that. However, he comes here, and this is the isnad of the book, the isnad saying who basically the manuscript says in the manuscript, all right, how I took this manuscript or how I've written this, where did I copy it from, where I got it from. And within this isnad, there are two persons that are unknown. The first one, he said, okay, maybe it is not that person, but it's another one. And basically, he say he is like there are a different name. This guy is the name is Muhammad ibn al-Hasan Abu Ahmad bin Ahmad Abu Bakr as-Simsar. Right? Yeah, so that person is called Abu Nasr. So his laqab is Abu Nasr. What the muhaqqiq here, muhaqqiq is the Arabic word again for the person who's doing that textual criticism. I'm going to be using it a lot, from now on to make it easier for like, so at least you know what we're talking about, right? So anyway, the muhaqqiq did not find that person, but find another one with a similar name with a different kunya. So he said, okay, it must be him. Well, no, that is a different person. How can you say they are the same? Even they are the same. The other guy here, lam a'thur lahu ala tarjama. I couldn't find him. He is unknown, maghul. And when you find something with maghul in the isnad, in the chain, then that raises a big question mark. Is this actually manuscript fully attributable to the imam or the person who's the manuscript claiming to be? Has anything been added to it? How can I verify that? He should find another manuscripts. He could try and find other isnads and so on. Or at least he says, all right, this book is attributable, but there are some question mark whether it is fully the words and the authorship of Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad or not, and so on. Okay, but again, nevertheless, although he says they are not the same, I couldn't find the person, but this book is Imam Ahmad for Imam Ahmad, Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad, and it's basically his work. So anyway, again, manipulation and hiding truth and so on. Okay, so this book, the problem again with this book is it's heavily criticizing Imam Abu Hanifa. Why? Because Imam Abu Hanifa was clear isnad, as we said in his Aqidah book, shows basically the Aqidah of a Salaf is against what Salafis and Wahhabis claim to be. So that's why they basically attacked him. All those hashwaya over the years, they've been attacking him, lying, falsifying records and accounts, like what happened exactly in this manuscript here. So you find the first third of this book is basically criticizing and calling Imam Abu Hanifa kafir and so on and so forth. And when the publisher of this book started or the first time wanted to publish it, they published it without that part because they knew that if they publish it all, the people will basically reject it because it was established in the lay person mind. It should be still established until now, but among those people it wasn't. Among the lay persons, it was established that Imam Abu Hanifa is one of the four main madhabs. He is a great imam and so on and so forth. So if that was published in that form, criticizing and abusing Imam Abu Hanifa and calling him very, very bad names and and Kafir and Jahmi and so on, they knew that people like automatically will say, no, something wrong with that. That can't be right. So they took it out. See the manipulation of people. See how they act. They took it out, and they have fatwa. This basically is allowed. And that was Ibn Baz, by the way. They took it out and published only the part about Aqidah, which proved their Aqidah, their corporealist. Right? Again, even that part is not thabit for Imam Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad, and even if it is thabit for Imam Abdullah, yani affirmed for Imam Abdullah ibn Ahmad, even if that doesn't mean it is the Aqidah of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, because again, as I said, it is proven that Abdullah wasn't at the same level as his father for sure. So anyway, that's a different story. But you see how it works here. It's basically thinking, right, how can I pass this Aqidah and this thing without causing disturbance, without raising questions? So basically they took it out until that book was being read by people, and that Aqidah started to manifest in a lot of layperson's mind. They then republished the book with the first half, or the first third, which basically is abusing Imam Abu Hanifa. So in that section, he's basically just listing some hadith or akhbar, not for the Prophet, just ulama, scholars saying that Jahmiyyah are kuffar, their wives are taliq, are divorced, they are kuffar, blah, 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 and so on. And then you will start, after that, you will start calling Abu Hanifa kafir, or Abu Hanifa Jahmi, right? So first, Jahmiyyah kuffar, okay, then Abu Hanifa is Jahmi, which follows means Abu Hanifa is kafir, okay? In this book and other books, a lot of books, there are a lot of, sorry, that's a question about which book they're calling Imam Hanifa kafir. In this book, they were saying that. They're saying he's Jahmi. I met him and he died Jahmi. And before that, as I said, they say Jahmiyyah kuffar here. You see, Jahmiyyah kuffar. And then they say died Jahmi. As I said, over the centuries, those people, those Hashwiyah, are the ancestors of nowadays Salafis and Wahhabis. And their biggest imam is Ibn Taymiyyah. And they're basically from the Firqa al-Karramiyya is one of their main firq at the time, but basically they are all Hashwiyah, what we call Hashwiyah, as we talked about or before in Aqidah. Over the years, they falsify accounts against Imam Abu Hanifa and insert it in a lot of manuscripts. Imam al-Kawthari has a great book, is basically rebut all that. Imam al-Kawthari is a great scholar, rahmahullah. He died. We talked about Imam al-Kawthari before, I think. Don't remember his name, which year exactly, but like he is recent, maybe 1950 something. He was Shaykh al-Islam or Shaykh what is equivalent in Turkey, like Ottoman Empire, Turkey, as the Shaykh al-Azhar. Of course, they don't have Azhar. Azhar is in Egypt, but something like that. Wakil al-Mashiach or something like that. And then when like the caliphate like split and fell, and Turkey started like to have its own way and so on, start the political parties there start to be against Islam and so on. He didn't back down. Then they were going to arrest him. He left to Egypt, and Egypt Azhar scholars benefited so much from him. He's a great scholar, and everybody is now rebutting al-Hashwiyah, rebutting Salafis, rebutting Ibn Taymiyyah. Is basically doing that on the work that Imam al-Kawthari has done. So, but it was not the son of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. That is what we believe, because as I said earlier, this book, like in its entirety, does not, or there is no proof that it's actually written or being authored by the son of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He had a book called the Sunnah, but what exactly is there inside that book, we cannot affirm that. There are a lot. What we're saying is, because of there is no clear isnad, because there are no enough manuscripts, affirming that every word here is actually authored by Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal's son is a very, very far-reaching. It doesn't. Okay. So and that's here in that isnad, right? So they come and say, okay, there are other books talking about Kitab as-Sunnah that are attributable to Imam Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Yes, he wrote such a book. But what is in that book? Did what we have now, is it exactly the same? No, it is not. It has been added. A lot of things have been added to them. Now they say no, it is his word, and he actually got it from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Right? That's basically their stance. Okay. Somebody is correcting me, I think, about Imam Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari. He is a deputy of Sheikh of al-Islam of Ottoman Empire. Yeah, that's correct. Wakil al-Mashiach. Yes, all lies. Okay. Anyway, so let me just, I'm trying to remember what I was gonna. All right. So again, so this is basically the book Kitab as-Sunnah. The muhaqqiq, I think everybody is now familiar with the word muhaqqiq, which is again is a person doing the textual criticism of the manuscript, trying to affirm or basically prepare it in a way that is fully attributable to the author. And again, you can see that they didn't do that here. This guy names Doctor, so he's a professor again, Muhammad ibn Sa'id ibn Salim al-Qahtani. كلية الدعوة وأصول الدين قسم العقيدة. So he's a very, very famous or very should be informed again scholar or person or sheikh, one of their Aqidah sheikh. But again, it is not about finding the truth there. It is about just affirming what we already set as our way of life. So he said that here. You can see that what he said, he showed here is correct. There's the isnad. And I couldn't find that this person, I think he's not that person, and so on. In another publication by another guy called Abdullah al-Hamdan, he basically affirms here that the isnad to the Imam Ahmad ibn Muhammad, Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Hanbal, and then he basically says nothing whatsoever about that the isnad, there are two unknown persons. Okay. Nothing whatsoever. So here, at least any reader will say, right, the lay person will not notice it, but somebody with like clear eye of how books should be done and manuscripts dealt with and so on will see there's something here. But because in the beginning of the dirasa here, again, he says, no, nevertheless, it is still fully 100% the Abdullah ibn Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal work. Here, this person doesn't say anything whatsoever about it. But not only that, he actually, so he basically rebut the first muhaqqiq, okay? Because the first muhaqqiq came to one of the athar. What did he say here? One of the authors. Here. So he says, فلان حدثني, somebody told me, سمعت, blah, 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 and so on, about Jahmiyyah, kuffar, their wives are divorced from them automatically, like mutallaqat, and so on. And then, until he says, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arshi istawa, right? Again, as we all know, they affirm an attribute called istiwa, which is basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sitting on the throne, literally. And then he says, وَهَلْ يَكُونَ الْإِسْتِوَاء إِلَّا بِجُلُوسٍ. هل يكون الاستواء, because what he's saying there is Jahmiyyah kuffar, because they deny that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sitting on the throne. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ar-Rahman ala al-Arshi istawa. And istawa means julus, sitting. How can istiwa be without sitting? Of course, that's nonsense and incorrect. We talked about that in al-Aqidah. So al-Muhaqqiq here, he had a little bit of although he's Salafi, he believes in he's corporealist, but corporealism is levels. Okay, so that like the blunt way this statement was made was a bit harsh for him. He didn't like swallow it, take it easily. So he commented that this athar here, this khabar, this statement, something wrong with it. The people of in their isnad are incorrect, like are not known. What he says, yeah, he was yudallis an kadhabin, so he's a kadhab, he's a liar. One person of those in the isnad is a liar, and therefore, like to say that kharija, that person saying so and so, that is basically like we cannot affirm that. The other muhaqqiq is basically saying, no, this person doesn't understand anything. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And this, the person that they are calling kadhab, yeah, he may make lies in like narration of hadith and so on, but he is not doing that here. He is basically talking about his aqidah and so on, and therefore we should take it from him, blah 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 and so on, right? So basically he's a next level corporealist. He basically affirmed that he's a liar, but nevertheless he's just talking about his aqidah. His aqidah is correct, we'll take it. Yeah, he's a liar, yeah, but we will take it, no problem. It's in accordance of what Ibn Taymiyyah said, and therefore it must be correct. Right, so basically, even among themselves, they fight sometimes about those heavily corporealist sentences and statements that are found in a lot of books that basically they rely on. So he's saying, for example, وصف القحطاني. القحطاني is other author, other محقق لخارجة بأنه كذاب لا عبرة به هنا. إن الرجل يذكر معتقده. He is just mentioning his belief. So there is, whether he is a liar or not is irrelevant, right? How is it irrelevant? You are taking aqidah of nar and jannah from a liar, and then say, yeah, that's fine. Awesome. Anyway, now another example. Imam Taj al-Din al-Subki, okay, what he says, وهؤلاء الحنفية والشافعية والمالكية, those of madhab Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, وفضلاء الحنابلة, not all Hanabila, because the Hanabila, there are two streams. The Hanbali, correct Hanbali madhab, we call fudala al-Hanabila, who are basically, who maintained the proper aqidah of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal with isnad, oral and written. Like, for example, Ibn al-Jawzi, a great Imam, Ibn al-Jawzi, who is different from Ibn al-Jawziyya, by the way. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, that's different. Ibn al-Jawzi was a great scholar, okay? He rebutted the corporeal stream in madhab al-Hanafi, madhab al-Hanbali, right? Again, as I said, madhab Imam Ibn Ahmad ibn Hanbal branched to corporeal stream and non-corporeal stream, following the Imam, exactly like Abu Hanifa wa Shafi'i wal Malik wal Imam ibn Malik, who all of them are Asha'ira and Maturidiyya. So following that, and the other stream branched out as corporealist. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi rebutted those corporealists in their aqidah. So what did nowadays Ibn Taymiyyah and those following Ibn Taymiyyah and Salafiyya Wahhabiyya says about Ibn al-Jawzi? No, Ibn al-Jawzi, they say, no, Ibn al-Jawzi, he rebutted that because Ibn al-Jawzi is actually Mu'tazili, from al-Mu'tazila. How could he is Mu'tazili? He's Hanbali. What are you talking about? He's just, you're calling him Mu'tazila because he's just against what you're saying and correcting what you're saying with isnad. But again, they don't look about that. If it is within what we believe in, we accept it. Even if it is a lying from a liar, we don't care. If it is against what we believe in, even if it is with complete isnad, mutawatir, we ignore. So he is saying those Hanafiya, Shafi'iyya, Malikiyya, wa Fudala al-Hanabila, the non-corporeal stream of Hanabila, walillah alhamd, thank God, in belief fil aqaid, one hand, كلهم, all of them, following the opinion of Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the opinion of Imam Abil Hassan al-Ash'ari, right? And al-Maturidi, they are both the same. They are sometimes we use al-Ash'ari because they are more famous as like encompasses Ash'ari and the Maturidi. Anyway, no one goes off from that unless few filthy people from Hanafiya or Shafi'iyya who followed al-i'tizal. Ri'a. I'm not sure about perhaps maybe filthy is not the thugs of Hanafiya and Shafi'iyya followed just a few persons followed al-i'tizal, and few thugs or ri'a from al-Hanabila لحقوا بأهل التجسيم corporealist. وبرأ الله المالكية فلم نرى مالكيا إلا أشعريا العقيدة. That was at his time, of course, after the fitna of Ibn Taymiyyah, and after the fitna of because that came after Ibn Taymiyyah, after the fitna of Wahhabism, that basically changed, and Salafiyya that basically changed now. وبالجملة عقيدة الأشعري هي ما تضمنته عقيدة أبي جعفر الطحاوي. The عقيدة of الإمام الأشعري is basically the same as what in the أبي جعفر الطحاوي, العقيدة الطحاوية, which is basically ماتريدية. Okay, referred to الحنيفية, أبو حنيفة, التي تلقاها علماء المذاهب, that all scholars of all madhab accepted and were pleased with it as a aqidah, as a proper aqidah. Right? Now, that was mentioned after Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah died, right? And after Ibn Taymiyyah died, his fitna, his aqidah died with him. And basically the corporealist stream started to weakening until they basically resurrected it again with the fitna of al-Wahhabi. So, okay, so basically that's what Imam al-Tajuddin Subki says. All right, here in Wahhabi publisher, what does they say? How can they reduce all that into what? Let's say جمهور المذاهب الأربعة على الحق يقرون عقيدة الطحاوي التي تلقاها العلماء سلفا وخلفا بالقبول. جمهور المذاهب الأربعة, all المذاهب الأربعة, جمهور of them, the majority of the المذاهب الأربعة, are affirming the عقيدة of الطحاوي that العلماء, the scholars, received with acceptance and or were pleased with it as a عقيدة and so on. Where they talk about أشاعرة, that الأشاعرة is أهل الحق? Nothing. Where is the talk about عقيدة الطحاوي is basically the same as العقيدة الأشاعرة? Nothing. Where that الحنابلة corporealist, some of them were corporealist? Nothing. Right? Basically omitted all that. Right. In another book here, he is saying this is about visiting the grave of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Again, in their aqidah, visiting the grave of the Prophet is shirk, is haram, mamnu'. Ibn Taymiyyah said that it's mamnu'. Someone saying, I have seen them accepting Ibn Jawzi, rahmatullah, critique of Sufiya, but as soon as we mention his work against the corporealist, they disown him. Yes, exactly. And the criticism you will find in a lot, not just Ibn Jawzi, a lot of scholars will criticize Sufiya, but they are criticizing certain stream of Sufiya, not all of them, because even, for example, Imam Zarruq, Ahmad Zarruq, he is one of the, that he is basically Sheikh Sufi, but what he actually talks a lot about bad actions from those affiliate themselves with Sufiya and do bad things. So it's basically self-correcting, saying, okay, those attributable calling themselves Sufis, they are not true Sufis. And that's exactly what Ibn al-Jawzi is saying. He's not criticizing Sufiya as a Sufism as an entire stream, because in a sense, he himself was a Zahid, right? He was in the Sufism, the proper Sufism way, but he's basically criticizing some of the bad actions of those who call themselves Sufiya. All right? But they take what they want, what like convenient to them, and what is not convenient, they say, no, he's Muqtadi', he's Mu'tazili. So anyway, Ibn Taymiyyah said in a fatwa that traveling to visit the Prophet is haram. It is a forbidden, haram safar. And that actually, this is one of his fatwa that he was imprisoned for, and he died after it. Like he died in the prison because of this fatwa. And Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said this is one of the most awful things that Ibn Taymiyyah said. So anyway, and that was against all the ummah, all the scholars from day one until now. They go and visit the grave of the Prophet. So they say, no, don't go to visit the grave of the Prophet or the Prophet, you go to visit the masjid. So as you can see here in this book, Aqidat al-Salaf, blah, 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 and so on, taken from Abdurrahman al-Sabuni, like the Sheikh scholar Abdurrahman al-Sabuni, and they say, وَزِيَارَةْ masjid Nabi. In the book, it says, Ziyarat Masjid, visiting the masjid of the Prophet, peace be upon him. All right? Now, another copy. Again, was Ziyarat Masjid Nabi. But what they say, في الأصل, in the manuscript, قبره, وهو خطأ. See, in the manuscript is written, وزيارة قبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. What do they say? No, they change it to masjid. Here, this guy, he just, he doesn't care. He doesn't think anybody will search and look at the manuscript itself. So he doesn't care. He just say, وزيارة مسجد النبي. Clear falsification, manipulation, not saying anything about it and hiding it. This man here, maybe he was a little, concerned. Maybe somebody will have that. The manuscripts are available to a lot of people, even those against us. So they might go and say, right, you see here in the manuscript is saying that, and you changed it. So he's just making a qualification here. In the asl, in the original, in the manuscript, qabru. Yeah, I've seen it, but it's wrong. Why? Because it's forbidden. Who said forbidden? Who said that? Ibn Taymiyyah. Done. So again, falsifying the Imam al-Sabuni says qabru. You are against that. Say that Imam al-Sabuni says qabru, and he is mushrik, or he got it wrong. And basically, therefore, there is a difference in opinions about it. But no, there is no difference in opinion. It is basically doing that is shirk. Done. You shouldn't. You can't. What about all the scholars? All the scholars except Ibn Taymiyyah says it's not shirk. How come? All of them are mushrikeen and kafir and even at least mubtadi'ah. Only Ibn Taymiyyah is the correct person. Ibn Taymiyyah died, by the way, in 728. He was born in 661, died 728. He's not Salaf. He's not from Salaf. Salaf are the Sahaba, Tabi'een, they're Tabi'een. Done. First 200 something years, first at best 300 years. Even those who said until the year 500, those are Salafs. Who said, or 400, who said that Ibn Taymiyyah is from Salaf? Ibn Taymiyyah basically found and had a lot of manuscripts, read without a sheikh. Those manuscripts has a lot of falsification, and he started to basically spread them. Right, in Kitab al-Adhkar by Imam al-Nawawi, again, in the manuscript, Imam al-Nawawi, فصل في زيارة قبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. قبر, زيارة القبر. Here, yeah, this is not the falsified one. This basically, you should, the visiting of the grave of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, visiting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he is alive in his grave. He is alive. Visiting him is a visiting the Prophet. And this is one of the most or the best deeds you can ever do, and so on. Basically, he's saying that I didn't bring the falsified version, but there is a falsified version where they removed that. And then the muhaqqiq of that copy is saying that falsification is basically blaming the publisher, not saying no, I didn't. He's saying I didn't do anything. I wrote it as is, but the publisher of that whatever changed it and also changed and deleted, omitted قصة العتبي, because قصة العتبي is also the Imam al-Nawawi صححها and affirmed it, that the person who went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, after he died, and said, يا رسول الله ولو أنهم إذ ظلموا أنفسهم جاءوك فاستغفروا الله واستغفر لهم الرسول لوجدوا الله توابا رحيما. And then that Utabi, he was a Bedouin. That Utabi was an Imam, a scholar at the time. He slept. He saw that person doing that, and then he slept in the masjid, and then he saw a ru'ya. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, coming to him and saying, go fast to that Bedouin and tell him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave you. This is like this story with isnad to al-Imam al-Utabi is there correct. Imam al-Nawawi and a lot of other scholars corrected it and added it in their books. This publisher here in the book of Azkar by Imam al-Nawawi, when it comes to this story, he omitted it, because again, talking to the Prophet after he died, going to him to visit him, is shirk in their opinion, right? So they cannot accept it. So he's saying, yeah, basically this is like a bayan, statements by the authors, the muhaqqiq, after that was discovered, saying, no, by the way, it's not me, it's the publisher. All right, but is it? What happened exactly? How can you, because you have to sign. Did you sign? You never know what's going on. Anyway, here in the manuscript, you can say, فقال يا محمد ما يقول باب. This is الأدب المفرد للبخاري. الأدب المفرد للبخاري. كتاب الأدب. البخاري, Imam al-Bukhari has a Sahih, but he has a lot of other books, تاريخ. So this is أدب المفرد. And in this book, Imam al-Bukhari is saying in what the person say when he feels numbness in his leg, right? So he basically says that athar, that khabar, or the record of account of Ibn Umar, and that Ibn Umar had that in his leg, and when he said Ya Muhammad, so that goes away from him. Again, calling the Prophet shirk in their aqidah. You can't. How can we attribute that to something to Ibn Umar? It's wrong. So basically, فقال Muhammad. How he changed it? He left yeah. فقال Muhammad. Just his name. See the falsification? The manuscript says Ya Muhammad. Why do you say Muhammad? Now this hadith, by the way, or this athar, some said it is da'if. All right, we don't care. Even if it is da'if, the mere fact that Imam al-Bukhari included it in his book without saying that is shirk or that is kufr or that's wrong or anything like that means that he accepts that this statement can be said. Whether it was actually said by Ibn Umar or another scholar or by other body, that doesn't matter. It is a da'if, yes, but it is not hadith for a Nabi by a Nabi. It is not hadith for a Prophet, peace be upon him. It is an account for Ibn Umar. It's different. And even if it is da'if, the mere fact that he includes it without any saying that it's shirk, that means he accepts it. It's not shirk. Nothing wrong with it. Okay? He's saying, ما يقول الرجل إذا خدرت رجله. What the person, an individual, a man should say if he felt numbness in his leg. Imam al-Bukhari said, I think he should say Ya Muhammad because of that athar. Athar da'if or not da'if, he thinks that you can say it. Is Imam al-Bukhari mushrik? Again, so basically they changed that. يقول Muhammad. Not the same, right? Anyway. Now, Tafsir ibn Kathir. They were very happy with Tafsir ibn Kathir initially without even reading it, because Ibn Kathir was one of Ibn Taymiyyah's students. But again, there were a lot of scholars who at some point of time Ibn Taymiyyah was a teacher who took some things from him, like they were his student, but they didn't follow him in every single thing. Very, very few people followed Ibn Taymiyyah in his aqidah. Ibn al-Qayyim and I forgot his name now, like 2 or 3 people, and the others basically didn't follow him. And then they discovered later, after making a big propaganda about the Tafsir ibn Kathir, it is the greatest and blah blah blah. And by the way, Tafsir ibn Kathir is good tafsir for sure, but it's not the greatest tafsir. It's not amazing tafsir by any chance. There were a lot of much more better. There's still a lot of better tafsir of other scholars at the time of Ibn Kathir. But why the tafsir of Ibn Kathir is so widely distributed? Because of them. They basically published it everywhere and made it accessible and free. And cheap, very cheap to be bought and so on, without even reading it. But then after reading it, after people reading actually what he says, actually he's Ash'ari. He's saying exactly as Ash'ari Mufawwid, right? And even in sometimes he do reinterpretation. So he is Ash'ari Aqidah. Even if he is student of Ibn Taymiyyah, he didn't follow him in Al-Aqidah. So when they discovered that, Mustafa ibn al-Adawi, that's the sheikh. I think he's current contemporaneous, one of their sheikhs now. He do Sahih Tafsir Ibn Kathir, right? So I'll take Tafsir Ibn Kathir and I'll summarize it with what Sahih only. And basically he removes everything that he doesn't like. And that's Sahih Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Their lay person, people just want to have Tafsir and read it. Oh, the Tafsir Ibn Kathir, the entire thing is too big. That is smaller and summary. And I have the exact same like understanding. And he reads it and he doesn't know what was omitted. And what was omitted is actually against what they believe in. Here in a manuscript, he's saying, فتاوى علماء الإحساء ومسائلهم بلا بلا عن ولا الأكرم الوهاب سيدي المرحوم المبرور فقير عفو ربه السيد عمر بن عبد الرحيم الحسيني الحسني الشافعي الأشعري. Okay. أشعري. Here الحسيني الحسني الشافعي and they remove الأشعري. You see? Again, that's another manuscript by Tabatabai. He's saying جثمان الوجود وسببا لوجود. He's talking about the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he's commending him. He is a reason of the entire existence and so on. Here in the manuscript, and basically the publisher, again Wahhabi, take that out. Because that's in their aqidah, in their mind, that's kufr. Anything that is commending the Prophet, peace be upon him, and elevating him is in their mind shirk and kufr. Now, you may not, again, the point is, you may not believe the same as the author. We are not saying necessarily that you should believe in everything the manuscript says, but you should be honest in publishing what is in the manuscript. And like if you really want to comment, this is where you comment in the margin. Come back or down here, the footnote, to say this is incorrect. We don't believe in that, and say why, and who agrees with you, who are the scholars that basically didn't agree with you, if any. But because we don't have that, because all the scholars are actually against them, except Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, they basically just remove. Again, another manuscript saying وَنَتَوَسَّلُ إِلَى رَبِّنَا تَعَالَى بِهِمْ. So tawassul and making intercession by like the good the صالحين والنبي عليه الصلاة والسلام, here talking about the عشرة المبشرين بالجنة وبالصحابة and so on, mentioning their فضائل and محاسن and their like bios and seeking Allah's forgiveness and intercession, interceding their intercession for Allah forgiveness and so on. Scholars basically have been saying that all over the years. Again, another scholar saying أما بعد فيقول again, I don't want to like here saying شافعي مذهبا الشاذلي طريقة he's talking about تنصير فقير محمد مكي نصر الجريسي مولدا والشافعي another scholar not the first one okay والشافعي مذهبا الشاذلي طريقة الشاذلي so he's following الطريقة الشاذلية الصوفية so basically they come saying شافعي مذهبا and they ignore شاذلي طريقة again because صوفية no that's عباد قبور grave worshippers right that was the entire lie that their movement started based on or based the movement on. And this book نهاية القول المفيد falsified by anyway. Now this book by Ibn al-Qayyim, of course Ibn al-Qayyim, one of their main references, wrote that book, which is a very shallow book, by the way. اجتماع الجيوش الإسلامية. Anyway, that's a different story. He's saying نستغفر الله لهم ونتوسل إلى الله تعالى باتباعهم. Oh yeah, that's the change. Even Ibn al-Qayyim had ونتوسل إلى الله تعالى بهم. The محقق here said باتباعهم. Okay. في الأصل in the origin ونتوسل إلى الله بهم وهو خطأ. لأنه لا يتوسل إلا بالعقل. Right. Say here what the scholar said. And then if you want to change it or rebut it, say why and how and so on. Not just change the scenario, that's wrong. Why wrong? Because Ibn Abdul Wahhab said that's wrong. In the new Tawheed that he invented. Again, another book, and they are basically just even commenting here. This book has been republished by us. كتاب القسطلاني. القسطلاني, one of the great scholars. There is in Quran, in Qira'at, you have to go through him. If you are reading with the Qira'at, 10 Qira'at, you have to go through him. He's in Isnad. He has Sharh al-Bukhari, a great Sharh of al-Bukhari, commentary and explanation of al-Bukhari that any serious scholar should not ignore, right? But he is Sufi as well, and he has that Kitab al-Istidkar, right? بأحاديث كتاب الأذكار. Anyway, he is basically explaining the Kitab al-Adhkar of al-Nawawi and so on. So what did he do to the book? They are saying, yeah, that is a great like publication that we have done of Kitab al-Istidkar, where we removed all those shatahat, all those words of Imam al-Qastallani of al-Sufiyya. Part of it he put the muhaqqiq kept but commented on it, and other part he basically cancelled and removed from the text. How can you? That's falsification. How can you remove from the manuscript? It's called textual criticism, to basically get it as is. You're trying to get as is as possible, not to remove. Like if you are like a student in any university and you do that, you are not just not going to pass, you are expelled. That's academic falsification. But anyway, that's for them, that's great. That's basically a milestone. They are great things. See how they, in a book, كتاب الأزهية في أحكام الأدعية, Imam al-Zarkashi al-Ash'ari, great Imam of Usul Fiqh and great Imam al-Zarkashi, who doesn't know him? What he's saying here, al-Muhaqqiq, saying, we removed his opinion, حذفنا رأيه وقومنا نقله, and corrected his like نقل, his writing and what he wrote. ولا يجوز نقل رأي أهل البدع. It was not allowed to نقل, to transmit or communicate the opinion of أهل البدع وضلالاتهم, and their going off straying, الضلالة, إلا في الضرورة لما في ذلك من الخطر على قلب المؤمن, because that's risk for the heart of the mu'min. Like, so again, I think you heard me before saying in their belief, falsification of the imams and scholars' books is allowed, is actually should be done. That's basically their fatwa. This because in their mind لا يجوز نقل رأي أهل البدع. No, who said you pass it? If you want to publish their book, you have to publish the book and rebut it if you want with evidence and so on. But no, we can't do that. If you do that, any objective person seeing what the evidence of those imams and scholars and our evidence, he will right away discard us. So what we do, we hide it. Okay, we don't show it because it is a risk. في ذلك خطر على قلب المؤمن. Is a risk for the heart with a believer. No, the believer will read and will be able to identify the right and wrong if you provide him with the correct with the evidence and rationale. But they don't do that. All right. Again, الدر المختار, one of book of in the introduction of the book الدر المختار, الإمام الحصفقي الحنفي, he is basically seeking intercession by جاه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He's saying والقبول بجاه الرسول, نسأل الله تعالى التوفيق والقبول بجاه الرسول. يعني he's doing توسل with the Prophet, peace be upon him, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, that's shirk, that's kufr in their mind. So what did al-Albani do here? He's saying هذا we did not ولم نتفرد نحن بإنكار تلك التوسلات المبتدعة. It is not only us who rebut or reject those intercessions, بدعة intercession and innovated, بل سبقنا إلى إنكارها كبار الأئمة والعلماء. But the great scholars has also did the same and rejected that. وتقرر ذلك في بعض المذاهب المتبعة. يعني some of even some of المذاهب followed madhabs of الأربعة, which is المذهب أبو حنيفة. فقد جاء في الدر المختار that book, وهو من أشهر كتب الحنفية ما نصه عن أبي حنيفة لا ينبغي لأحد أن يدعو الله إلا به. Nobody should make دعاء unless to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? ولله الأسماء الحسنى and so on and so forth. So this is يعني it's actually it's rude. It's not just falsification, but it is using a book who is saying exact opposite of what you are saying, and basically you turn it around. It's super weird. So he's saying in al-Mazhab al-Hanafi, it is not allowed to seek unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is correct. That's in all madhab. We do not pray except to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But tawassul, intercession, shafa'a is different, right? And the book that you are referring to is actually in the muqaddimah. The Imam is saying أتوسل إلى الله بالقبول بجاه الرسول. He is doing it. So how can you do that? Where did you understand that? Did you not read the muqaddimah? So again, anybody who reads this, he trusts them. He doesn't look at the original book or anything like that. He's saying, oh, even in Madhab al-Hanafi, they prevented tawassul and saying it's wrong and shirk and so on. No, they didn't do that. It's the opposite. Right. Again, that's a book by عقيدة الإمام مالك الصغير, أبي محمد بن عبد الله بن زيد القيرواني. Right. شرح, explanation of شرح عقيدة أبي زيد القيرواني. And he's saying here وليس المجيء الذي إضافة إلى نفسه على سبيل ما يكون منه من الانتقال والحركة. So المجيء of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وجاء ربك, مجيء Allah, coming of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and going and so on. And like that is not movement, is not changing location, is not movement, is not like that. That's what he's saying there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't fill places and empty that list to go to other place. That's movement, right? Because that is attributes of ajsam, that's corporealism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala munazzah, لا يجوز عليه ذلك. All those kind of intiqal, movement, and being in a place and moving from a place to a place, that's basically forbidden. It's not for Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala munazzah عن ذلك. right? What does that guy come and say here? He's saying, basically removing that. جاء ربك and omitting all that from his book. And this book is basically has taqreed, has like it's commended by all those heads of their madhab, Wahhabis. See? That is the original book. That's what the Imam is saying. Their publication, they remove what they don't want. And it's halal, it's allowed in them. Actually, it is qurba. Do they inform the reader at all that they modified the text in the book itself? For example, the author's note, or perhaps you didn't join us in the beginning. Perhaps you can see the recording, brother, because sometimes they say, as we said in the footnote, they say in the origin it's so and so, but it is wrong, and let's just leave it there. And in other instances, majority of times they don't even say anything. Like here, nothing. Just basically put dots. The dots meaning I couldn't read it. It's illegible. So sometimes you come across a manuscript in a part that the words are not clear. You cannot read, you cannot know what are they. So basically, you just put dots, right? So he's saying, yeah, there are something in the manuscript I couldn't read, which is anyway. And again, he's saying, and in his words, there is affirming of the attribute of maji, of coming of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that it is a sifa, literal meaning, as apparent in the ayah. Right? So basically that's what he's saying. But I mean, you are referring to the Imam, and he's saying, the scholar, using what he says to support what you say. It's very weird, right? It's again, they don't read. Their followers do not read. They do not go through, why this is missing? Can I check another copy, another public publisher? Can I get the manuscript and see for myself? No, they don't do that. They just accept it and go on. Okay, so I think, I mean, there are a lot. I don't think we can go through all of them. Yeah, this is about the Mawlid, al-Mawlid al-Nabawi, the Prophet Mawlid. And, you know, for them, again, that's shirk, that's bid'ah, that's wrong. And this Imam here, this scholar here, is saying, yeah, for those who celebrate in a bad way, that's wrong, but we celebrate it in a way that makes it we like memorable. We memorize the seerah, we memorize the good ethics, how we should behave in our life, and basically make it a day where we go back to the Sunnah and so on. What did the Wahhabi says, Salafi scholar Farkus? What did he say? He removed that, and he take the first part where the Imam saying some do celebration in a bad way, and that is incorrect against the Sunnah, and say, yeah, that Imam saying al-Mawlid is against Sunnah and wrong. See how can that relate? It's basically omitting critical element of the scholar text that gives you context of what the author, the scholar is saying. He's saying, right, using that day to do bad stuff and use it as an excuse to do bad stuff is wrong. But using it in a way that as we do, he's saying we نحتفل ونحن نحتفل بالمولد على طريقة غير تلك الطريقة. We are celebrating the Mawlid in a different way. وبأسلوب غير ذلك, in a different way. We read سيرة النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام. We make it appear and like talk about it, the good ethics of al-akhlaq al-Muhammadiyya and Muhammadi al-Nabi عليه الصلاة والسلام behavior and so on. He basically omit all that and take whatever he wants and go on with it. So again, it's basically saying that Imam is saying something, but when you go to the Imam book himself, you do something else. In al-Jami' this is basically tafsir al-Qurtubi, and the Imam al-Qurtubi is Ash'ari 100%, and this is basically in Imam al-Qurtubi, what he's saying. They omit whatever, remove it, consolidate it, and reduce it, making it appear as it is basically in line with what they are saying, and that the Imam al-Qurtubi is saying what they're saying, which is not. Okay, and that's al-Tuwajri, one of the biggest heads there. قال المحققون أأمنتم من في السماء كقوله فسيحوا في الأرض أي فوقها انتهى. He didn't say that. They won't say that أأمنتم من في السماء أين Allah is above the skies, like literally in a place, physical. But what he is saying here is different. He's saying there is a علو Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-a'la, but that علو, highness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is علو of عظمة, greatness, not place, not directions, not borders or limit, because these are صفات الأجسام. That's what the scholar is saying. That's what the Qurtubi is saying. Is pew, omitting with that, tak 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 tak, and basically saying, أجمع المحققون أو قال المحققون, everybody المحقق, the great scholar says أمنتم من في السماء is above it. Where did you get that? وقال القرطبي في تفسيره كلام على قوله تعالى blah blah blah, right? Yeah, here is the iftā, the fatwa. Okay, there's no time to like go through everything in detail, but basically this here is the fatwa شرعية from them that is basically omitting from manuscripts and from books and changing it in accordance to the سياسة الشرعية, the شرعية policies is correct. الذي صنعه المشايخ والمتعين, what those sheikhs have done but to respect the سياسة الشرعية and to omit وإراده أن يحدث whatever is inconvenient or not suitable or not befitting is basically is correct way to go. Again, here saying لا على معنى القعود والمماسة كما قالت المجسمة والكرامية is not the meaning of sitting and touching as the corporealist and كرامية said. Here basically saying ينبغي إطلاق صفة الاستواء من غير تأويل, without interpretation, and that it is استواء that literally استواء on the throne, لا على معنى العلو, not the meaning of علو المنزلة كما قالت الأشعرية, ولا على معنى الاستيلاء كما قالت blah 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 and so on. Anyway, in this book of Sunnah, another book called the Sunnah by Abu Bakr al-Khallal, and they are basically saying, you see some of their aqidah, and العرش يئط به, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sat on the throne, and because of the Allah heavy, so the arsh squealed, did like sound of when you put a heavy object on a chair, new chair or something like that, it caused like a sound. So that's what happened. That's like, I don't know what to say. It's all Israeliyat, like it's all basically from Torah and Injil, and they introduce that into a Muslims literature and basically defending it. Right. This is from a book of Imam, I think it's Safari. I'm not sure now. He's talking about a book, something that has been added to a book by Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni, and he's saying that I think that what happened to that book, because I don't think Imam al-Juwayni said those things. إن الله يعلم الكليات لا الجزئيات, because Imam al-Juwayni has other books and other sentences, other statement clearly against that. So he's saying in this book it doesn't seem to me that he's written it, and it's exactly as what those Hashwaya did with the Kitab al-Ibana of Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari, who introduced and basically put stuff into it which is not Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari words. So that was known by this group of people who basically Hashwaya, they change throughout the centuries. Here you can see the book by Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, and he's saying وفيه فأتى ربي عز وجل فأجده على كرسيه أو على سريره جالسا. Now the word جالسا is not in the origin. Like Ibn al-Qayyim himself is falsifying. So he's saying in his book, this is the account, the record. وفيه فآتي ربي عز وجل فأجده على كرسيه أو سريره جالسا. Even the محقق himself here, who is Wahhabi, is saying قوله جالسا لم أقف عليه في المسند ولا في غيره. وقال الألباني قوله جالسا هذه زيادة ليست عند أحمد ولا عند غيره blah 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 and so on and so forth. So sometimes they say that's like addition, but does that mean they changed their aqidah or anything? No, they just go on. But you can see that even like changing or adding stuff is not just new for the nowadays Salafis or Wahhabis. Actually, even Ibn al-Qayyim was fine. And here again, this is basically again Ibn al-Qayyim in another book, in the same book actually. He is copying some poem by a Hanbali scholar, okay, and he changed what he says. He says the origin, the محقق here tell you the origin. في ديوان الصرصري, the original diwan, in the original poem, ليس كمخلوق حواه سريره. وفي الديوان بمحدود. There is no, ليس كمخلوق حواه سرير. There is no sarir or throne or something that will encompass Allah or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be there, which is what like in line with proper aqidah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not confined in a place, is not confined by a sarir, by a throne, which is sarir here. He's not mahdud, there are no borders, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Ibn al-Qayyim, he doesn't like that because that is not his aqidah. He takes the poem but change it. He's saying تقدس كرسي له وسرير. تقدس كرسي لا, يعني Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has a sarir, has a throne and has a chair. وليس كمخلوق, بدل ليس بمحدود, no borders, ليس كمخلوق. He changed it because no borders basically demolishes their aqidah. Again, words by Ibn Forak, and they change it. Like keep going. I don't think we have. All right. So basically, moving on now. So I gave you a few examples. There are a few more here, but there's no time, to be honest, to go through it in detail. I think you got a flavor. And this, by the way, just few. I got that from a compilation of some of that, not all of it, but some of that compilation by another brother. I don't know him. It's just in the internet, and it's over 400 pages. Okay, of terrible things by those people. Okay, and that's what I got it from. I just took it as is, and he's done a great work, very very great work, and that is just an example. Even those 400 pages, they are just an example of like the terrible things of this group Hashwiya all over the years. And that what we discovered, we're able to discover. Imagine what we earned. Literally, there are our scholars with complete isnad, like recently, like in this year, like past 100 years or something, went to there and saw them cutting from manuscripts and like doing that, scratching from it, anything that is not true. See, they are doing that in the library, in front of everybody. And that sheikh, the great sheikh, told them, "What are you doing? That's haram." He said, "I've been told to do that. I'm doing it." So anyway, now from the book of Durar al-Saniyah, that's their book. Why are they doing that? What is the issue here? Let's take a little bit of a historical like background or something like that. The question, so would an edition of a book that includes things they would reject, would this edition of book be condemned? No, they ignore it. I mean, I'm not aware of they saying anything. They are basically republishing they have their own books. And then when they, of course, it's basically Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim. That's the main major thing. And then at the start, it was also Ibn Kathir because they thought he is following the same way. And those other, corporealists, Darimi, blah, 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 this book of a Sunnah, and so on. But then they face a problem now. Is 99% of the scholars all over the years, the four madhab and so on, all of them are not saying the same thing. They needed to show that no, actually they are also in line. So they falsify their books, and that's basically it. That's what's happening. Now, just to give you a glimpse of a mind of this movement, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, he's saying in his book, that's basically their book. It's not something, because there are other books written about them. Okay, and they say, no, that's lies, and so on and so forth. This book is, they talk about themselves. Okay? And by the way, we have to be very clear here. We separate Wahhabism as a movement from the country itself. Saudi Arabia is different. Saudi Arabia has cut ties with those movements long time ago. But they are still there. They are still active because the cat is out of the box. And unfortunately, because of all those lies and falsification, they managed to plant themselves in a lot of lay persons and ignorant and unlearned people who are just moved by zeal, like by their zeal and I am Muslim. I love being Muslim. I want to be Muslim. Those are calling themselves Salafis. I want to follow the Salaf, so I follow them, right? Just out of complete love for the Salaf and without proper background about ulum and mind and learned mind and so on. That's why we take these courses. We are an introduction to fiqh. Don't study fiqh by just starting with a book and reading it. You need to understand, like, have a great background about the manuscripts, how they reached you, how the scholars thought about it, about the fiqh, about the other ulum and so on. Anyway, perhaps we diverted a little bit here, but just because we opened the topic, and when I open something, I'd like to get it over with, at least to some extent. So he's saying, I tell you about myself. Wallahu alladhi la ilaha illa hu. Laqad talabtu al-ilma. I sought the ilm and the knowledge. وَاعْتَقَدَ مَنْ عَرِفَنِي أَنَّ لِي مَعْرِفَةً. And everybody who knew me thought that I have knowledge and I have ilm. وَأَنَا ذَلِكَ الْوَقْتِ. And that time, I do not know what does la ilaha illallah mean. And I do not know Deen al-Islam. Before that good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon me, bestowed or gave me. وكذلك مشايخي, even those مشايخي ما منهم رجل عرف ذلك. No one of them knew that. Okay? فمن زعم من علماء العرب, anybody who knows or claim that he knows what does لا إله إلا الله mean, أو عرف معنى الإسلام قبل هذا الوقت, before me, then he commend himself by what he's not, what he doesn't have. So basically he's saying, only me now know what does la ilaha illallah mean and what is Islam is all about. I was student of ilm and seeking ilm before, and everybody knew that or thought that I know the Islam and know la ilaha illallah, but I didn't know what does la ilaha illallah mean until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me that knowledge. How Allah gave you that knowledge? Is there another wahy, revelation after the Prophet, peace be upon him? We know the knowledge from our shuyukh and there from the shuyukhs and so on, all chained to the Prophet, peace be upon him. How did you suddenly knew by yourself something that even your shuyukh didn't know? And he's saying, any scholar, he claimed that he knows what la ilaha illallah means, or claim that he knows the Islam before me, قبل هذا الوقت, before my time, before what I'm saying, he is basically, or زعم, or claim that one of his shuyukh knew that, فقد كذب وافترى. He is a liar. ولبس على الناس, and manipulated people. They're the manipulating people. ومدح نفسه بما ليس فيه. Commended himself for something that he doesn't own. And then basically continue about talking about some scholars. So he's saying all scholars in my time, and even before my time, even my shuyukh didn't know what does la ilaha illallah mean. What didn't know what Din al-Islam mean. Only me know now. And even I didn't know a few years ago. I knew it just after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me that khair, that good, or that knowledge. We know that the Prophet, only the Prophet, peace be upon him, Allah revealed to him. We didn't know that Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab also received revelation. What is that? What is that word? That's basically their mind. That's what they start. That's all this movement is all about. Everybody is kafir except us, except me. Only me know la ilaha illallah. Only me know al-Islam. Everybody else doesn't know. Even if they claim that they know, even if they claim that their shuyukh know, nobody knows. Shocking. In their books. Again, they don't read, and we don't read, most of us. A question. So they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a weight. Yes, of course. Volume and weight and thiqal. And by the way, when you tell that to their followers, say, no, we don't say that. We don't say that Allah is sitting on the throne. Because their followers are also ignorant. So they don't know what is their own madhab is. Okay? Of course, the brother of Ibn Abdul Wahhab, Sulaiman ibn Abdul Wahhab, was a great scholar. His father as well was a great scholar. So Sulaiman, his brother, when this movement started, he was rebutting his brother, saying, you call people kafir by no means. They are basically rebutting him. So Ibn Abdul Wahhab himself, like Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, tried to kill his brother. That, which is a different story. Everybody knows about it, but anyway. So here in one of the books by al-Qadi, he was a judge. So Ibn Abdul Wahhab actually wasn't that great of a scholar. Okay, and if you read his books, they are very shallow. There is no ilm there, just very, very shallow kind of fifth grader maybe level of knowledge. So his father was a great scholar. His brother was actually also a great scholar. He was a judge. So he had like a great knowledge, and to the extent that he was like judge, not just a normal scholar. And he's telling him, فَتَأَمَّلْ, how can you like think about what you're saying? أَيْ وَقَوْلُكُمْ فِي مَنْ خَالَفَكُمْ فَهُوَ كَافِرٌ. And what you're saying that anybody against you or doesn't agree with you is a kafir. And you're saying that everybody who does not declare those kuffar kafir are also kafir. So everybody is kafir. Like, how can you say that? And basically he's rebutting that. In other book, again, أما التبرك والتمسح بالقبور وأخذ التراب. التبرك بالقبور, seeking blessing, التمسح, make it like doing that with the qabr and whatever. أخذ التراب والطواف بها, طواف with قبور. فقد ذكره أهل العلم فبعضهم عده في المكروهات. Like the scholars all over the year, the scholars mention that these are haram or makruh. But nobody said that anybody who does that is a kafir. And that's the point. When somebody go and do tamassuh with a qabr, يمسح القبر, or take some of the sand, because before that there wasn't like wall or anything like that, okay? Or do tawaf by around the qabr. That is haram. That is haram, but it's not kafir. He is doing something haram, is not sharia aligned, but he does not believe that like dead person is a god. He doesn't do ibadah, worshiping to that person. So his brother is basically rebutting him, saying, okay, how can you declare those kafir? So Ahl al-Ilm said, this either makruh, you shouldn't be doing that, is bad, and it is makruh because it is some of that, like tamassuh bil qabr is makruh. Why? Because when you visit a grave, you respect that person. If you are visiting that person alive, would you like do that tamassuh with him? And I don't know what is the word of tamassuh. Anybody can help me with a translation of tamassuh? Masaha. Do you understand? Like when something like that, and you do that to it, okay? Seeking blessing and whatever. So it is a bad behavior to that. So it is makruh, for example. Tawaf, haram. We only the only tawaf allowed for Muslims are around al-Kaaba al-Musharrafa. But when we do tawaf to al-Kaaba, do we worship al-Kaaba? We don't. Right? So those who do tawaf around a grave, they are not worshiping the grave, but they are doing something that has not been allowed for Sharia. We only allowed to do tawaf around the Kaaba, not anything else. So the Kaaba has special status. Giving that status to anything else is incorrect, is wrong, and is haram. Right? But it's not kufr. You cannot call them kafir unless they say, yeah, I worship that person. I think he is God, with God. When they say that, yeah, then he's kafir for sure. But people doing that out of ignorance or out of being unlearned or not knowing, you cannot call them kafir. But they called them kafir. They fought them. They considered themselves like the early Muslims, fighting ghazawat, doing ghazawat like the Prophet and so on. Again, in another book by Sam, فإنكم الآن تكفرون من شهد أن لا إله إلا الله. You are declaring kafir those who witness or testify that there is no God but Allah. وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وأقام الصلاة. They were killing them in the mosques, in the masjid. وأقام الصلاة. They pray, they do zakah, they do fasting, they do hajj to al-bayt. مؤمنين بالله. They believe in Allah and an angel and the books and basically doing all the sha'air al-Islam, all the ritual of Islam. And you make them kuffar, تجعلونهم كفارا وبلادهم بلاد حرب, and their cities and their villages are villages of war. And we ask you, who is your imam in that? ممن أخذتم هذا المذهب? Where did you get that madhab from? Right? Back to his point, from me, I got it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before that, I didn't know what Islam is. What does La ilaha illallah mean? Before that, even my shuyukh and my shuyukh didn't know what La ilaha illallah mean. Right, and this is again one of their books talking about the glory of those wars that they declared on those Muslims. Right? فقتل تلك الساعة من مشركة تلك الجماعة. We killed in this hour from the mushrikeen of those group, this person and that person and 5 more. ولم يقتل من المسلمين. Nobody from Muslims. Who are Muslims? Their group. So the Wahhabis group are Muslims. Everybody else is mushrik. Who actually, in reality, they are Muslim, right? But they don't consider them Muslimin. The Muslimin is only Wahhabis. Okay. وقتل من أهل الرياض. From أهل الرياض قتل 7 منهم. فلان this person. ولم يقتل من المسلمين إلا 2, عبد الله بن سليمان وسليمان بن جابر. ثم صار المسلمون, then Muslim army, the مسلمون, وأميرهم إلى ثرمدة, other village. وكان النذير قد جاء, and so on. So basically, they are in their mind, they are now at the Quraysh time. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is like the Prophet. We are the Sahaba, and we are fighting mushrikeen. Okay, so that's basically this movement all about. So they are Khawarij, okay? And that's what exactly the scholars of the time said. So here, حاشية العلامة الصاوي في تفسير الجلالين. So here, العلامة الصاوي, Imam الصاوي is making explanation of تفسير الجلالين. تفسير الجلالين, we know of جلال الدين المحلي وجلال الدين السيوطي. علامة الصاوي, by the way, is a student of Imam al-Dardir, right? And we also addressed some of his explanation of in the Aqidah course, Sharh al-Kharida, because he has also Sharh al-Kharida. Okay, anyway, so what he says here, وقيل هذه الآية نزلت في الخوارج, talking about an ayah and say, okay, this ayah is addressing al-Khawarij, those Khawarij group, Kharij, you know, al-Khawarij started at the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and they declared Ali ibn Abi Talib kafir. Okay, and again, everybody was kafir except them. So that's basically where these are the ancestors of those Wahhabis. And then they are basically killing Muslims. وَيَسْتَحِلُّونَ بِذَلِكَ دِمَاءَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Okay, وَأَمْوَالَهُم. لما هو مشاهد, as what we can see now in their نظائرهم, people like them, وهم فرقة, and there are a group بأرض الحجاز, in الحجاز land, يقال لهم الوهابية, called الوهابية, يحسبون أنهم على شيء, they think they are following the proper way, ألا إنهم هم الكاذبون ولكنهم liars, كاذبون خاطئون, استحوذ عليهم الشيطان فأنساهم ذكر الله, and so on. So basically العلامة الصاوي, who was living at the time, seeing their atrocities, what they are doing, and how they were killing Muslims, how they killed even the pilgrimage, the Hujjaj were coming to Blad Allah al-Haram, and they killed them, and that's why they stopped Hajj for a few years at that time. So he's saying he's seeing what they are doing and say, okay, those are also applicable. Those are al-Khawarij. They are calling them this Allama, this Imam Sawi, calling those Wahhabis Khawarij. But again, in other publication aligned with Wahhabis, what did he say? They removed any reference to Wahhabis. So in the original, the older version, and what is in the manuscript is كما هو مشاهد أو لما هو مشاهد في نظائرهم, people like them, like Khawarij, Wahhabis. In another publication, for some reason, they took that, like basically affiliated with Wahhabis, could be they didn't want to disturb, they want their books to be allowed, like and bought by them, so they basically removed anything about Wahhabis. Again, that's another even older copy, طبعت في الأزهر, مطابع الأزهر, very old copy. And again, وقيل هذه الآية نازل في الخوارج الذين يحرفون تأويل الكتاب والسنة ويستحلون بذلك دماء المسلمين وأموالهم, كما هو مشاهد الآن في نظائرهم وهم فرقة بأرض الحجاز يقال لهم الوهابية, يحسبون أنهم على شيء, ألا إنهم هم الكاذبون, استحوذ عليهم الشيطان فأنساهم ذكر الله, أولئك حزب الشيطان, الوهابية حزب الشيطان, ألا إن حزب الشيطان هم الخاسرون. نسأل الله الكريم أن يقطع دابرهم. We seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to kill them, to get rid of them. Okay, so that's the word of the Imam Sawi. Again, in this copy it was removed, in this copy it is there. Again, also نسأل الله الكريم أن يقطع دابرهم, exactly as in the al-Azhar copy, published 1962, and against another copy published 1295, ونسخ أخرى موثوق بها, another copies, authenticated copies. In another book, another form of falsification. What did he do? كما هو مشاهد الآن في نظائرهم من فرقة بأرض الحجاز, as we can see in another group in أرض الحجاز, but basically omitted the part about what they call Wahhabis, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rid us from them and get them like نسأل الله أن يقطع دابرهم, right? This is from Imam Ibn Abdin book. Again, Imam Ibn Abdin, we talked about him, and that basically all the law now, the civil codes, is based on his work, Hashiyat Ibn Abdin, and he is a muhaqqiq and the last muhaqqiq of Madhab al-Hanafi. He had we'll have 40 copies of all the books and different even versions of the manuscripts and the book, and he will compare between them and he will analyze them and so on. We talked about him in the previous lessons. Anyway, he is saying مطلب في أتباع عبد الوهاب والخوارج في زماننا. Sections or section or part regarding followers of Abdul Wahhab al-Khawarij in our time. Khawarij هذا الزمن. Because as I said, Khawarij started by the Ali ibn Abi Talib time, and they basically cycles. They will go away, people will basically not follow them, and then they will rise again and so on. So basically they have risen again by the hand of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. ويكفرون أصحاب نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم. He is basically just saying they don't have to declare أصحاب النبي كافر for to be called Khawarij, but يكفي اعتقادهم. It's only enough for them to consider everything else as كافر, which كما وقع في زماننا as happened in our time. في أتباع عبد الوهاب, the followers of عبد الوهاب, الذين خرجوا من نجد, الذين they came out of نجد, وتغلبوا على الحرمين, and they basically controlled الحرمين, وكانوا ينتحلون مذهب الحنابلة. They were lying and saying we were Hanabila, but they weren't. But they وينتحل, يعني like he's affiliating himself with مذهب الحنابلة, but not, of course, not properly, like claiming to be Hanabila. لكنهم اعتقدوا أنهم هم المسلمون, but they thought that only them are Muslims, they are the Muslims, وأن من خالف اعتقادهم مشركون, and everybody that differs or doesn't agree with their belief is mushrik. واستباحوا بذلك قتل أهل السنة وقتل علمائهم, and by that they took that as an excuse to kill أهل السنة, like the عوام people, وقتل علمائهم, and even their scholars. They killed the mufti of Mecca, killed a lot of people. حتى كسر الله تعالى شوكتهم وخرب بلادهم وظفر بهم عساكر المسلمين, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like they were demolished and they lost, because you know there were 3 movements. This was one of the movements that they lost. That's the first movement, I think. حتى كسر الله تعالى شوكتهم وخرب بلادهم وظفر بهم عساكر المسلمين عام 33 و200 وألف. Okay, 1233. Because the reason they've been like they lost, the Muslims, the Egyptian army went there and basically fought them when they started like affecting the pilgrimage and so on, and took their heads, the heads at the time, and that was after Muhammad ibn Wahab. Muhammad ibn Wahab himself has died, so that's basically after they took his movement and grow, and they took them and they treated them very, very well. Took them to Egypt. They put them in al-Azhar, said, okay, maybe when they study in al-Azhar they will calm down and know the correct way and so on. Treated them very, very well, respect and everything. But then they they ran away, went back there, started another movement, but that was the second one where they fought among themselves, and they basically like died again, or like they lost. And then the third movement where they controlled everything, but then they wanted to, and basically like with Sheikh Abdulaziz Al Saud, I think that was the time at his time when they basically won the war there and controlled the Saudi. Then they wanted to keep going and fight Egypt and fight the other countries, because again they are kuffar. So this is where the king, he was very clever and very smart. He said, okay, no, those are now they are not on the right way. So basically he got rid of them like in a way, but I don't remember exactly, like, but he basically like controlled them and didn't listen to that rubbish they are saying. And this is where they started to go apart from like different ways. But they are there as a concept, even if they are not there as a politics, but they are there as a concept, and so intertwined and kept it like that for a long time. And basically they are everywhere now, not just in Saudi, but in everywhere. But again, so basically the great scholars at the time were calling them out. And you don't know that. You don't know about that. Nobody knew about that because we don't read. So I think that's the end of it. We think digressed a little bit out of fiqh, but I think it's necessary background that we need to know. Next time, inshallah, we will talk about we'll get back to the fiqh. We'll talk about Imam Abu Hanifa and the main scholars of the Madhab al-Hanafi, and their way of thinking and how they developed and so on over the years. And inshallah, every lesson will take a madhab, and that will be it, inshallah. We'll see. It depends how long time will allow us, inshallah, or how much time will allow us. Anyway, any questions?